What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is your host, as always, Adam Perez, once again with a brand new episode review. As we're about to get into episode number 8, Belly of the Beast for Gotham Knights, baby. That's right, we got ourselves a brand new episode tonight. I am, in fact, recording this Tuesday evening for you guys, literally 30 minutes fresh off of the finale of this particular episode here this week. And I gotta say, man, holy, pardon my French, but holy shit, what an incredible episode we wind up having in here. I'm sorry if I tend to curse a lot, guys. I do apologize. I'm originally from New York, so it almost feels like it just comes out naturally. You know what I mean? But so I will definitely do my best. But if there's any episode that definitely deserved an SHIT bomb or an F bomb this week, it was this episode. I mean, look, easily for me the best episode of the season. It I don't know the particular writers. I think I pulled this up here real quick. It was directed by Jeffrey Hunt. Great directing work, if you ask me. Writers David Paul Francis and Nate Ogultieri. If I am pronouncing those names wrong, I do apologize, but they definitely deserve a plenty for this episode because man, Gotham Knights this week was fire. It had some twists, some revelations, some great payoffs to the great mystery here. I mean, the just to give just my overall thoughts on this, man. I gotta say the beheading of the Talon in this episode was one that really just got me out of my seat, man. It just truly did. I did not see it coming. There's a lot of shock and awe in this particular episode in regards to one, I didn't expect to see so many beheadings in a season. I think we got teased that one in the first episode when Talon cut somebody's head off. I don't recall actually seeing it though. But the fact that we see it in this episode and just the surprise, because I just did not know what was about to happen there. That definitely got me out of the seat, man. I thought that was a fantastic moment. And again, the idea of like swerves, like there's a great scene in here as Dula and Turner have the map and they're getting ready to leave. And then the head of the Court of Owls says, "We have a traitor in our midst." And I love as these two characters are turning around, you see everybody facing them. And I immediately thought, oh my goodness, they've been busted. But that's the swerve. They were actually looking at Cressida, who was kind of being put on trial in front of everybody, being called out sort of as a traitor. So this episode really just handled itself beautifully. The directorial work I thought was top notch. The writing in here was even better, if you ask me. I just really love some of the not only the angles that the director took, but especially like when you're trying to showcase the differences between Harvey Dent and his opposite, personality sort of thing. Those moments, when the camera turns and it angles, just some really really cool shots in here, and really great directorial work on top of the great writing. So I was hella impressed, man. Even the production design I thought for this episode really stood out to me. Just some of the set design pieces that we wind up getting, especially during the courts gala. It almost felt like every room that you went into, they had just really great sort of set decorations. And then also whatever like filter they wind up using to really make those candles sort of pop out even more. It was just a really great vibe and sort of tone, sort of set all episode long. Like it was just something very unsettling. And I think the concept also of like going behind the enemy lines sort of carries its own level of stakes with it, right? And like, man, this is a really dangerous mission if things certainly go wrong. And a lot certainly went wrong in this episode, but definitely some really interesting revelations wind up coming about out of all of this. Like even the fact that Cressida, who goes out to be in the middle of this court, if you will, finally just sorts of lets loose on the Court of Owls, right? And when you have that moment of Turner rescuing her and saving her, the fact that it was almost like, her death was inevitable. And I kind of appreciate the fact that she at least did reveal what she needed to Turner before she met her unfortunate demise. So I love the idea of seeing Turner do something good, something that he knows that his father would certainly do. But really, it's just kind of not all in vain when it comes to at least Cressida's life. So I thought that was pretty interesting that even though there was a rescue, that they still wouldn't let her get out of this episode alive, if you will. So some really great decision making, a great revelations about the idea that Bruce Wayne was going to go ahead and give his fortune to the people of Gotham City. That's why he wanted to go ahead and do the changing of the will also, to go ahead and get people out of poverty in Gotham City and really stick it to the man, if you will, of Gotham City, stick it to the Court of Owls, and they wind up killing him, certainly for that. So, and again, all this sort of rolls out from what I thought was just a great introduction to a mystery, and that is sort of like the 3 or 4 watches from the Court of Owls that our Gotham Knights just so happen to certainly have, right? Thinking that, oh man, these watches are broken, and come to find out, like, no, they're literally giving you a longitude and latitude and time to meet, sort of thing. I just love how it unraveled this whole mystery, getting the opportunity to see the Gotham Knights really try and figure out the mystery together, almost like the Scooby Doo gang, if you will, which just winds up leading us to a really big adventure here in this week's episode. So I thought it was really great writing, really great character development, also, especially when it comes to Stephanie, even Harper in this episode, right? Like, we're so used to seeing them kind of clashing over the past couple of weeks. It's almost like they are now getting a little bit of a better appreciation for one another. And I think it's really going a long way, like getting the opportunity to kind of see them. I don't want to say finishing each other's sentences, but the thought process that the person was about to go down sort of next, and really kind of bringing it all together. So I thought it was pretty cool, even having like Cullen call her out towards the end, like, oh, you really think she's kind of useful, sort of thing now, right? So the tide is definitely changing, but I thought they did a really great job when it comes to the idea of Stephanie and Harper bringing things together finally, and hopefully it continues along that path. But yeah, just a really great episode. Even the intro for this episode I thought was really fantastic, like the first shot that we have, right, of like the two mob guys, or whatever the case, gangster guys, whatever, thugs, whatever, and then they just come flying off the screen. And then bodies just kind of flying before you get Carrie and Carrie and Turner walking up to camera. I thought it was a really great intro, and again, I think from that moment I was like, okay, they're going to be doing different things here in this episode, and they definitely did not disappoint. The usage of the ledger I thought was pretty fascinating, that they're using it now to kind of bust up crimes, whether that be from drugs or to guns. So they're really digging into sort of that vigilanteism a little bit and using the ledger against the Court of Owls. So I thought they did some pretty great stuff when it comes to that. And listen, the big swerve too, right at the end of Lincoln being um I was going to say not the Talon, but sort of the head of the Court of Owls. I do wonder if there's other people above him and he's like, the supervisor to the head manager, if that makes sense. But I'm not sure. We'll definitely have to learn a little bit more. But I thought it was another great reveal. Again, it's one of those things, like they have they have really great pacing of how they want to tell a story when they feel pieces of information to certainly be dropped. It doesn't feel like we get big reveals like this. Like, this feels like a monumental shift for the series, certainly itself. I don't know how many episodes we're definitely getting, but this was definitely a pivotal episode, and you definitely felt it in your bones. And they definitely took extreme care of this episode. So really loved it overall, and best episode of this season. But let's really get down to the nitty gritty of some of these characters, right? And some of the development that we wind up having here. Because for me, Misha Collins, once again, as Harvey Dent, just absolutely killed it, if you ask me. It is one of those things where I'm like watching the situation that Harvey Dent finds himself in, and I'm just like, this dude is in deep. Like, he just finds himself in the worst situations that he could possibly find himself in, right? Like, people are questioning him. Homeboy wants to go out and run for mayor. You got Lincoln that's certainly on his ass, pushing back. He's sleeping with Lincoln's wife, with Rebecca, who now Lincoln knows that they're certainly sleeping together or something something's happening because Harvey Dent was sloppy and wind up leaving his cufflink back at her place. And now Lincoln certainly knows, and he's trying to now make Harvey Dent's life absolutely miserable. This man is in deep. And now Rebecca's like, get me out of here. And he's like, I'm coming for you, babe. Like he's invested. And at the same time, he's also trying to like juggle the whole Cressida revealing herself, right? Putting her now in hiding, hideout, if you will, and then also having to juggle his own split personality disorder that just winds up taking over at any particular point in time. I mean, the man, you, you already had to worry about the Court of Owls, but he just threw so much more on his plate that he definitely did not. But Misha Collins is working it right now as Harvey Dent. I've been hella impressed in here. And for me, it's at the point now where I'm trying to figure out who, when is Harvey Dent Harvey and when is he somebody else? Like when he was with Rebecca, he's very much Harvey Dent. But when he got back to like the office at the police department, and the secretary and everybody's like hassling him and stuff, he got pretty defensive. And I was just like, man, I considering the fact that it's really on you, Harvey, for not being there, he certainly lashed out. But look, when Harvey's deep in it, he's gonna lash out because he got so much on his plate right now that he's got to worry about. So there was a part of me that was like, is that Harvey Dent or is that the other persona? But we do get the other persona in here, as we do see he winds up going back for Cressida, and they wind up leaving him a cassette player, and he winds up pressing it, and it seems as though they've activated him. Very sort of like Winter Soldier vibe, if you will. And if anything, I feel like we've heard this tune before in a very early episode, and I don't think I made the correlation that anything had happened then. I might have to go back. I think it might have happened in like episodes 1 or 2. If I'm mistaken, definitely please let me know in the comment section, but I feel like we've heard that tune before, him picking up a call, or like, hey, you got a call on the line, and he picks it up and it's the music. I didn't catch it then, but now I definitely caught it, and I think everybody was certainly meant to in here. And again, just the shifting of perspective with the angling of the camera just really goes a long way to kind of show things have changed. And I kind of dig the idea too that at the end we see Harvey wake up with a Court of Owls mask covered in blood. If I had to assume, I would assume that that's maybe Lincoln March's mask, and then maybe also Cressida's blood on his hands and on his mask also. Is I do think he's probably gonna try and set him up. I mean, the man's sleeping with your wife, and you come to find out that you literally, well, he hasn't found out yet, but we know he's literally slept with the most powerful man in Gotham City's wife. So yeah, at the end of the day, he's so yeah, it's not somebody that you want on your ass trying to frame you for murder, and it definitely seems as though that's the case. So yeah, Lincoln March is not playing around, but it should be interesting to kind of see how Harvey Dent gets himself out of this one. We did see a preview for next week's episode, and that definitely looks intense in its own right. I also need to talk a little bit about who do we have? Duela and Turner. I really like this pairing. The idea that they make the bold choice. First off, I love the idea that there is opposition and pushback towards Turner about the idea of like intercepting this gala or this meeting that they're about to have, right? Like I love the idea that there are other fair-minded people in the room that are like, bro, this is not a good idea. We probably really should not do this. It can escalate super quickly. So I'm glad that there were other people that were voices of reason, but they still wind up giving in and still doing this with Turner. But at least if they're going to take anybody, take Duela with you. And they definitely did. And I thought they had a really great moment in here, especially the fact that she winds up sort of catching Turner speechless. And I thought that was really brilliant of a way of how he should approach her, right? Like the fact that, man, she's stunning. I definitely did not expect that. I'm usually the guy that's better with words, and I can't even really describe that sort of moment. And I thought that was actually really, really cool. And again, it's one of those things, man. The Waynes, they like themselves dangerous women, you know what I'm saying? And Turner definitely seemingly has picked that up from Bruce when it comes to getting involved, or at least fairly interested. I don't know if I'm getting different signals between him and Stephanie. Like, is that a thing that they're teasing also, or is this the thing that they're sort of teasing, that sort of forbidden love, if you will, the opposites attract sort of mentality, But I dug it. I really continue to dig their chemistry on screen. Definitely works for me, and I thought it was really cool that she became as vulnerable as she did in this episode, talking a little bit about her mother, Jane Doe. So I thought that was a really fascinating insight to learning a little bit more about well, both of these characters, honestly, at the end of the day. And listen, their adventure wind up introducing us to something by the name of Electrum. Is that what it's called? This is, I would assume, the substance that Eunice was certainly talking about when she said that the Court of Owls was giving her father, Felix, this sort of substance to kind of allow him to live longer, if you will. She did mention the idea that there was no more substance, but we come to find out from the Court of Owls through Turner and Duela being at the gala that the map that they found from Alan Wayne is supposedly supposed to lead them to more Electrum. And the idea is that they want to overcome death. They want to be able to sort of live forever. And that would be extremely crippling to Gotham City. And so that's what they're certainly looking for. So we have been introduced to the concept of Electrum. It does say here on DCFandom.com the history is that it's a metallic alloy that, when prepared in the correct way, has the ability to reanimate the dead. So you will come back living in some capacity, but if you're reanimating it, I don't necessarily know if you have your wits or consciousness about you. About it, if there's just a bunch of talons out there, I almost feel like it kind of defeats the purpose. You know what I mean? It says the Court of Owls learned to use the metal from Dr. Leviticus centuries ago to save and reanimate their talons over generations. The bodies of the talons were specifically prepped so that they would reanimate in a matter of minutes if touching a piece of electrum, usually in the form of a metal tooth implant. Maybe this is what they probably gave Talon also in the past episode to go ahead and revive him. So yeah, it says it was this process was further perfected in modern day by Mr. Freeze, who hadn't realized he was working for the court, but instead he was told he was working towards the downfall of Batman. Interesting. I dig it. It says Electrum is one of the 5 metals that, when one person is exposed to them all, would open a portal to the dark multiverse. That's pretty badass. So that's just some insight in regards to what Electrum is in the DC Comics world. But we get introduced to that mastery over death, is I believe how they wind up revealing that. But good stuff, man. Good stuff in that regards. And listen, we also got to talk real briefly, if we can, about Stephanie, who really surprised me in this episode, because it was almost like night and day getting the opportunity to see what her relationship was like with her father. First off, look, we already know that her mom was an addict, or at least had like a drinking problem that she was certainly suffering from. But the fact that these pain meds now are definitely making the situation even that much worse. Stephanie coming to find out that her mom was getting prescriptions through her name. So the pharmacy contacted Stephanie Brown. That's how she wound up discovering that here in this episode. But look, while I personally have never been in a situation like that, the moment that they had on screen was just as raw, it felt like, and as visceral as I could possibly ask for. Like, I literally felt for Stephanie. I thought the performances were great in there. Hearing her mom sort of wailing and causing destruction on the outside just because she can't get her pills was just very terrifying, because I'm sure there are plenty of kids out there that have had to deal with that when it comes to their parents being out of control, addict sort of thing. And those moments are very, very real. And so the fact that you get to see what her real world life is like, compared to maybe some of the assumptions that Harper had at the very early beginning of the seasons, you just get to see that contrast of what her life truly is like when she gets home. And if anything, I thought her relationship with her dad was pretty good. Maybe they have good moments, and then maybe they have bad moments like this, because it would shock me to come to find out that Stephanie is just now learning that her dad is an enabler. But maybe she realizes it now because it's gotten so worse, and maybe he's just doing the same thing he's always done, and maybe that's coming into perspective for her a little bit more in here. But the fact that by the end of this episode he like flips and turns the page and turns the blame on her, like, why did your mom do this in the first place, right? Like, if you had just done what I asked you and just continued to enable her, she wouldn't be upset in the first place, right? So really pushing that blame just in its own way, a form of like mental abuse, just to make your your daughter feel less than or to blame for certainly what's going on in her mom's life, sort of thing. So Stephanie is getting it from both ends at the moment, and I thought it was just a really interesting and powerful swerve that we saw compared to the first interaction between her father and herself. So maybe they do have those good days and extremely bad days, unfortunately. But yeah, when I guess when you're always the daddy's girl, maybe you let it down your guard and trust a little bit more. And I'm sure the same thing happens with any kid and their parents. You know what I mean? That kind of deals with that. But it's a really powerful stuff when it comes to Stephanie Brown's moment in here. And just a really quick honorable mention: the Carrie Kelly character upgraded her goggles by Harper. I thought that was pretty fascinating. That Harper has that sort of tech whiz, like she's pretty good to be able to go ahead and upgrade like Bruce Wayne tech. You know what I mean? So I thought that was actually pretty cool that Harper gives the upgrade, and also her really taking the leadership role in here and regrouping the team when things are terrifying. Turner's been kidnapped. Nobody knows what's happening next. Duela clearly wants to go ahead and save him and rescue him, and whatever case may be. Carrie Kelly going into her Robin sort of, I'm now the head vigilante here in Gotham. I need to channel my inner Batman. Let's go and regroup, coming up with the great game plan here, and hopefully they'll come up with a plan to go ahead and save Turner at the end of the day. But man, overall, guys, great episode. Absolutely great episode. I had to gush a little bit about it. I'm sorry if we went a little bit long, but man, what a great episode. I hope, listen, I don't know what the future holds for Gotham Knights after season one. We're hearing shows like Walker Independence being canceled on the CW. I believe Walker Texas Ranger does have another season coming, but I do think, if anything, the CW is going to continue to cut some of its sort of existing scripted shows. I don't know if they're going to cut or cancel all of them. I think they're going to just be really very picky about the ones they certainly do. So I don't know what the future holds for Gotham Knights, but I got to tell you, I hope that if Gotham Knights season one is the only season that we get, I definitely hope that it builds momentum and a support group and a gathering for it. Somewhere else on streaming service, maybe HBO Max at some particular point in time. Right now, I'm really enjoying this season, and I think this is like an extremely good reason as to why I certainly am. So I definitely hope that this show continues to get more and more fans on its side, because I'm definitely enjoying it for myself. But other than that, guys, listen, these are just my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, I want to know yours. What did you guys think about this particular episode? Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below, and we'll continue this conversation until next week's episode. But until then, do me a big favor, guys. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.